Hello my friends. Before I start the video, I would like to say that I challenge Majorkill to doing this workout. I can challenge anyone else I guess, but I don't know any other Warhammer YouTubers who are really into fitness. So yeah, I mean I highly doubt he'll see this, but maybe I'll even pay for ads in Australia and maybe you'll see it. But yeah, I challenge you, Majorkill, to try this workout, and I hope you see this. That'd be pretty cool. Check out his channel. He has very good videos and a better mic than me. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into the video. So today I'm going to go over a huge chunk of lore, that being some of the history of the Space Marines, and a summary of each legion and the physical creation of a Space Marine, including each of their unique clans. While I do this, I'm going to be doing the Space Marine themed workout. I'm going to try doing the lore over the workout footage, so let me know if you guys like it. Anyways, a rigorous physical and mental training regime is a constant part of a Space Marine's life. Learning tactics, sparring with fellow Marines, and much more training. Seeing as they have basically no need for recovery, overtraining is likely impossible for them. So today I'll be performing 1 to 2 major compound lifts for each body part, as well as 1 or 2 isolation movements. We'll be maxing out as well, but the Marines could easily max out as much as they want to. Obviously these are not personal bests because I'm doing a ton of reps beforehand, so if you guys want to see my personal records and stuff, or like really big lifts for me to do, we'll be doing that next month because I'm still cutting, so I'm not as strong as normally, and also this is always just going to be really hard, so some of the lifts are going to be a bit light. They're going to seem a bit light, but after working out for 5 hours, everything feels heavy. Sorry. So here's the workout. We have pyramid sets from 10 to 1 for deadlifts, same for bent over rows. Then we have 100 chin-ups. We have 10 to 1 bench press, 100 machine presses, 100 flies, 10 to 1 squats, 10 to 1 glute raises, 100 calf raises, 10 to 1 overhead press, 100 lateral raises, 100 bicep curls, and 100 tricep pushdowns. So now that we've got the workout out of the way, we can put that in the background, and I'll start with the Space Marines are the genetically engineered superhuman warriors of the Imperium, created by the Emperor of Mankind in the 30th millennium. They act as his judge, jury, and executioner. They are the Imperium's finest warriors, and very few can match them in combat. The origins of the Space Marines lies long ago in the past, beginning with the creation of the Primarchs. After unifying mankind with his legions of Thunder Warriors, the Emperor of Man took to creating the Primarchs. 20 of them, they slept within their gene pods, awaiting the day the Emperor would complete them. 20 of the most perfect, most powerful beings perhaps ever created from flesh. The Emperor made these 20 individuals to each lead a legion of Space Marines in the Crusade to reclaim the stars for humanity. Yet things did not go fully as planned. Before the Emperor could complete his work, the 20 Primarchs were whisked away by the Chaos Gods. Each Primarch landed upon a different planet within the Milky Way, and the Emperor led his Space Marines out to the stars to find his lost sons. Each Primarch was extremely unique in their own way, each fine-tuned to lead their legion and perfect their ways of war. Russ was a grand warrior whose strength and ferocity was unbound. Fulgrim was the embodiment of perfection and beauty, his swordsmanship and skill in the arts unparalleled. Dorn was a bastion of a man, his stalwartness matched only by his skill in constructing fortifications. Perturabo was the hammer and drill of the Emperor, able to break through even the hardiest of bunkers. We could talk about the Primarchs for hours, and perhaps another day we will. For now, we will go back to the main topic at hand. 20 Primarchs for 20 legions. Each Space Marine Legion was eventually reunited with their gene fathers and brought to their full glory. Yet at some point, 2 of the Primarchs were lost. It is a long debated topic within the Warhammer community of what happened to them, but it is rumored that at least one of them and their legions was massacred by the Space Wolves for some sort of transgression against the Emperor. We will likely never know what happened to them. It's a great topic for people to make their own Space Marine Legion stuff, so I don't think Games Workshop really wants to tell us what happened to them, because it just makes fun stuff for other people, I guess. Anyways, the Purge Legions were the 2nd and the 11th Legions, and all records of their existence have been destroyed. This was not the only time Space Marine fought Space Marine, though. For once the Great Crusade came to a near end and all was well, the Emperor left his sons to work on a secret project, anointing Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, as War Master to oversee the remaining of the Crusade. At first this was harmless, but the Emperor's leave soon felt like abandonment within the Legions. We will talk about the Horus Heresy in great length another day, but to sum it up, half of the legions fell to chaos, beginning with Lorgar of the Wordbearers Legion, then Horus. Horus began a civil war, his combatants being the Lunar Wolves, the Word Bearers, the World Eaters, the Emperor's Children, the Death Guard, the Thousand Sons, the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, and the Alpha Legion. On the opposing side, the Loyalists consisted of the following legions: the Ultramarines, Dark Angels, Imperial Fists, White Scars, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, and the Salamanders. Not all legions were completely loyal to either side, and warriors from all legions fought for both sides, but the majority were loyal to Horus or the Emperor. The end result was the defeat of Horus, but at extreme cost to the Imperium. Many Primarchs had fallen or disappeared, and the Emperor was reduced to a skeletal being, only kept alive by the golden throne on which he sits. His psychic being rages on in the warp, but his physical form is not but a corpse. I should also mention that after the heresy, the legions were split up into chapters because of the Codex Astartes, written by Robote Guilliman, which we'll talk about in a little bit. His book pretty much caused all the Marines to split up into different chapters because there can only be 1,000 Space Marines per chapter now. Not much. Whereas like the legions were like 10,000 or more Space Marines. But before we go over all 20 of the chapters, 20 of the legions, I just wanted to let you guys know that there's lots more chapters than these guys. They're all successor chapters from the legions, of course. Also, I want to mention that every description of each legion will be a little bit different, just based on my knowledge of each of them and the amount of research. Writing the script already took forever, so I didn't do a ton of research. This is mostly off my head. But yeah, so let's go. So now we have 18 Space Marine legions. Let's go over each one briefly, starting with the first legion to the 20th. The first legion, the Dark Angels, led by Lionel Johnson, who is now in stasis on their homeworld Caliban. They are the true judges of the Emperor. Their legion holds perhaps the most secrets within the Space Marines, next to the Alpha Legion. They are full of inner circles, their origins lying with that of knightly orders. Their home planet held routine monster hunts, often led by the Primarch Johnson before he was united with the Space Marines. They have extreme martial pride and honor, as well as being extremely secretive and mysterious. Within the Horus heresy, at least half of them fell from the Emperor's grace and turned to Horus. Or so we're told. The third legion, the Emperor's Children. Duelists and poets, these perfectionists were led into battle by Fulgrim. Perhaps the most beautiful and graceful Space Marine legion of them all, they valued perfection over all. Flawless form and tactics, they made battle into that of arts, yet they were corrupted by the powers of chaos and fell harder than perhaps any other legion. In a tragic tale, their pursuit of perfection was warped by Challnege to be that of horrid excess. The legion became madmen, obsessed with the perfection of pain and stimulation. They still held true to their vows of perfection and skill in battle, but is now a warped, terrifying thing. They are obsessed with noise and pain. They allied themselves with Horus, bringing horror to the battlefield with weapons that kill with pure cacophonic noise. Fulgrim slew the Primarch Ferrus Manus, his best friend and brother, in a depressing finale to his fall. He then gave in to the evil that was taking him and soon fell to madness, eventually becoming a demon prince. The fourth legion, the Iron Warriors. Masters of siege and demolition, these Space Marines were led by the father Perturabo, an extremely brutal and bitter man who committed genocides and atrocities without a second thought. He massacred his home world for their disloyalty and regularly killed his Space Marine sons for any lack of loyalty or martial prowess. These machines of men are heartless killers who bear perhaps the largest arsenal of heavy weapons and vehicles within the Space Marine legions. Bitter and merciless, they methodically cut down their enemies no matter what walls they stand behind. They eventually sided with Horus, and Perturabo was tasked with the siege of Terra. This legion also has a hatred and rivalry with that of Rogodor's Imperial Fists, and since the heresy have fought unfathomably bloody battles with them. The fifth legion, the White Scars. The White Scars are a very interesting chapter and largely underestimated. They are men of speed and ride to battle atop great war bikes with their Primarch Jagadi Khan. They are very clearly based off the Mongolians of Genghis Khan and have a grandeur culture of martial pride and honor. Although the Imperial Creed does not allow it, they still hold to many beliefs such as heaven. They are masters of art and poetry and greatly value their culture. The Khan is perhaps the most skilled swordsman of all the Primarchs, second only to, even equal to that of Fulgrim. They sided with the Emperor when the Horus heresy began, and they were deceived into being as far away as possible from Terra when the heresy began, and had many battles with the Alpha Legion, yet some still made it to Terra for the great battle. The Sixth Legion, the Space Wolves. Led by Lyman Russ, these warriors are Vikings of Space Marines. They are the most admirable
tribesmen. Again it is time to soak our blades in the blood of weak southerners, pompous and proud. Yet they don't even give me the courtesy of a word of fight. I come here seeking champions, but look, they stand peasants. Their cowardly lords don't deserve their riches, so we shall kill them and take all that we see. Then the rest of Pretoria. My masters will receive these offerings by my sword. Fill at will!
Vicious killers of the legions along with the World Eaters. But while the World Eaters are the way that they are because of rage and nails within their skulls, the Space Wolves are much more controlled fury. They hold deep to superstition, hating the magic of the warp and almost always holding on to trinkets and tokens. They worship the Emperor as the Allfather and have other wolf gods originating from their planet of fire and ice, Fenris. The wolves are the Emperor's executioners, and it is rumored they were created for the purpose of killing space marines. Many believe it was the wolves who wiped out the two missing legions, and when the heresy began, the wolves were tasked with destroying the Legion of the Thousand Suns, and in a tragic tale of misunderstanding, Lyman broke the back of Magnus the Red, along with his legion, forcing the legion to take extreme measures and retreat to the warp. The 7th Legion, the Imperial Fists. Masters of fortifying and defense, these space marines clad in yellow, red, and black are led by their father Rogel Dorn. At least they were during the heresy. Rogel Dorn and his Imperial Fists were called to Terra the moment Horus's portrayal was discovered, and were tasked with the absolute security and fortification of Terra and its solar system. The Imperial Fists can turn any shack into an impenetrable bunker, or any manor into a stalwart bastion. They are tough and resolute, as well as being perhaps some of the most devout followers to the Emperor. After the heresy, Dorn was lost, and the only thing recovered was his hand. No one knows if he is truly alive or dead. Dorn was a firm believer in pain being a device of meditation and purity for the body, so it is very common for Imperial Fists to have a pain glove that brings the wearer extreme pain when wearing it, and is used as a device for discipline and meditation. The 8th Legion, the Night Lords. By far the most sinister legion of space marines, these marines hail from a world with no sun. Each recruit is a bloodthirsty killer and usually a psychopath. These warriors have no mercy and firmly believe in the ends justifying the means. This was brought up with their Primarch Conrad Curze, the Night Haunter. Growing up in the streets of his pitch-black planet, he was witness to many horrible crimes, and as he grew he became a vigilante, slaughtering all who he thought were unjust. Soon Curze began broadcasting the screams of agony as he would flay and torture murderers. Curze and the Night Lords see themselves as justice, and will often intimidate planets into submission by simply broadcasting the horrifying torture of only a few of its warriors. The Night Lords sided with Horus when the heresy began, and near the end Conrad was at the cusp of insanity, cursing his father, the Emperor, for everything. He was believed assassinated, so guilt-ridden he allowed the assassin in his chambers with no guards or resistance. The Night Lords still terrorize the galaxy to this day. The 9th Legion, the Blood Angels. Before and during the heresy, the Blood Angels were led by their father, Sanguinius. Argued to be even more beautiful than Fulgrim, Sanguinius was loved by all. He held wings of an angel and brought righteous judgment upon the Emperor's enemies. In combat, the Blood Angels are brutal masters of slaughter. They hold no mercy for humanity's enemies, and they hold some of the most skilled psychers within the Space Marine legions. When the Siege of Terra had begun and the Emperor, along with Dorn and Sanguinius, teleported onto Horus's flagship, Sanguinius was the first to find the War Master. An amazingly skilled swordsman who had defeated bloodthirsters in the past fell to Horus in mere seconds. He was no match for the Primarch, infused by all 4 Chaos Gods. When Sanguinius fell, it caused a terrible backlash within the Blood Angels and drove many of them to a bloodthirsty insanity. This is called the Black Rage, and all Blood Angels are susceptible to it today. It brings the warrior into a berserk rage, the death of their Primarch replaying in their mind, bringing them blinding fury. This turns the Blood Angels into animals and often causes them to go out of control. This was a pivotal moment in the Siege of Terra as it struck back the invaders with animalistic fury. It is said the chink in Horus's armor made by Sanguinius allowed the Emperor to defeat him. The 10th Legion, the Iron Hands. These warriors are by far the most augmented space marines in the galaxy. Each Space Marine replaces their hand with that of a cybernetic one. They are firm believers in the phrase, the flesh is weak, and strive to hold as many augmentations as possible. Their Primarch and father, Ferrus Manus, was an incredibly skilled smith, and forged many of the weapons that his brother Primarchs wielded. Not one for words, he gave these weapons as gifts to his brothers, as an act of goodwill and brotherly love. But where he was not a great conversant, he was best of friends with the Phoenician, Fulgrim. They were brothers, and by far had the strongest relationship out of all the Primarchs. This only made it ever more saddening when they turned on each other when the heresy began, and Fulgrim slew Ferrus. The Iron Hands still fight on, and there are rumors of the ghost of Ferrus Manus. The Legion sports an impressive amount of vehicles, and has more tech marines than any. They are formidable foes, and are not to be underestimated. The 12th Legion, the World Eaters. These are the Emperor's butchers. Similar to the Space Wolves, these Marines are brutal and feral, but where they differ, the Space Wolves still have a sense of humanity. These Marines lose all emotion when battle begins except for that of rage. Their father, Angron, grew up upon a horrible world where he was thrown into a coliseum, forced to fight and slave for his survival. He had a device implanted into his brain called the Butcher's Nails, a sinister device that caused the implanted to be extremely quick to anger and always brings him an itch for bloodshed. When the bloodshed begins, it releases endorphins, only making the bloodshed ever more addicting. When the Emperor found him, Angron had led a rebellion and had fought off 25 armies sent against him and his fellow slaves. But he was eventually forced back when 7 armies put their strengths together to defeat him. Then, for some reason, the Emperor saved Angron and left all of his friends to die, creating a hatred for his father already. Later, Angron went against the Emperor's bidding and implanted the Butcher's Nails within all of his Space Marines. They are masters of war and could take planets overnight. Angron sided with Horus and eventually became a demon of Khorne. Their heresy truly broke the world leaders, and they are now nothing but slaves to bloodshed and the god of war. The 13th Legion, the Ultramarines. The poster boys of Warhammer 40,000, these Marines are clad in beautiful blue and gold armor and led by the master tactician Rabute Guilliman. While other Primarchs were found fighting for survival or slaughtering armies with uprisings, Rabute had already secured dominance over his planet and was running it perfectly. The 500 planets in which the Ultramarines claim lay to is Ultramar, the most revered and perfect planets within the Imperium. They are a bastion of hope and perhaps one of the only places one's life is enjoyable within the Imperium. The Ultramarines are the jack of all trades of Space Marines. They are home to Grand Door swordsmen, diplomats, governors, and soldiers, and are perhaps the most honorable of all legions. During the heresy, the Emperor sent the Ultramarines to chastise the Word-Bearers for worshipping him as a god, and the Ultramarines burned the Word-Bearers' perfect city to ash. Not only this, but the Word-Bearers were forced to kneel to the Ultramarines, only bringing a great sense of shame and hatred. This led to the bitter wars between the two in the Horus Heresy, and arguably was the cause of the heresy itself. Guilliman was eventually gravely wounded by a poison-tipped sword-wielding Fulgrim, and was put into a slumber for nearly 10,000 years. He was recently woken from his slumber with the help of an Eldar, and has begun his next crusade. Guilliman also created the Codex Astartes after the heresy, but before his wounding. This is held as one of the most important book of text for all Space Marine chapters and outlines limitations of numbers, splitting the legions into chapters to avoid something as extreme as the heresy again. It also includes tactics to be used in every situation. The Ultramarines are devout users of the book, but legions such as the Space Wolves all but disregard it. The 14th Legion, the Death Guard. Led by Mortarion, the Death Guard are arguably the toughest Space Marines out there. Their home planet Barbarous is plagued with poisonous gas all across the land, and the Death Guard recruits must be exposed to the most lethal toxins and poisons in order to ascend to the ranks of the Legion. Mortarion is a stone-cold figure who emanates death. Always wearing a respirator, he carries a massive scythe called Silence and reaps his way through the battlefield. The Death Guard are an implacable, undeniable legion of warriors who will push through anything in order to achieve victory. With grim determination, they methodically slaughter their enemies. During the heresy, the Death Guard sided with Horus. Mortarion's hatred and disgust of Psykers already somewhat directed towards his father, the most potent Psyker in the galaxy. Due to this, the Death Guard turned fairly easily, their allegiance being first to Mortarion and second to the Emperor. Eventually, Nurgle, the god of plague and contagion, brought his hand over the 14th, turning them to lumbering hulks of pus-ridden mass, only increasing their sinister toughness. Mortarion roams the galaxy today as a terrible demon prince of Nurgle. The 15th Legion, the Thousand Suns. By far the most powerful Psykers of all the Space Marines, this is a legion of scholars and archaeologists. Led by Magnus the Red, a one-eyed Primarch whose skin is pure red, they believe the pursuit and preservation of knowledge is more important than conquering or killing. Yet these warriors are not to be underestimated. They are perhaps the most lethal of Space Marines, being able to vaporize a man with a mere gaze or create impenetrable shields out of thin air. One of the more tragic tales of the heresy, the Thousand Suns sided with Horus due to a mismanagement by the Emperor and the treachery of Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and scheming. During the Great Crusade, the hatred and mistrust of Psykers grew ever more, most Space Marines seeing the touch of the warp as unnatural and dangerous. This in turn led to the Council of Nicaea, where the use of psychic powers was essentially banned within the Imperium. This took away the thing held most dear to the Thousand Suns and began a great hatred of Lyman Russ and his Space Wolves, who were the ones who championed the band. The Thousand Suns had a genetic flaw in their gene code called the Flesh Change, and where at times the warp would overtake them, and they would transform into a giant monstrosity of flesh. This was witnessed by the Space Wolves and only furthered their reason to hate the warp and push for the ban. Later, as Magnus discovered Horus's treachery, he rushed to tell the Emperor with his psychic powers. As he flew through the warp, he encountered a great wall near unimpenetrable. Already hearing the words of Tzeentch for the past while, the Chaos God convinced Magnus to breach the wall to alarm the Emperor. Doing this got him through to deliver the message, but it also brought scores upon scores of millions of demons into the throne room, where the Emperor was working on an extremely important project. It was destroyed, and his progress was gone as the demons rushed through. Too angered, the Emperor did not hear Magnus's call, and Magnus retreated. This breach of trust and law forced the Emperor's hand, and he released the Space Wolves upon the Thousand Suns, slaughtering them. They fled to the warp as Layerman, the chief librarian, went to desperate measures to conserve his legion, and turned almost all of the less powerful marines into dust automatons within the Thousand Suns armor they wore. Magnus became a demon prince of Tzeentch, and they still ravage the galaxy today. The 16th Legion, the Luna Wolves. Clad in pearly white and green armor, the Luna Wolves are led by Horus Lupercal, perhaps the most influential Primarch in the 30th millennium. They don't call it the Horus Heresy for nothing. Horus was the first Primarch found by the Emperor, and has since seemed to be his favorite son. He is a master of war and has incredible mind for tactics, rivaling that of Guilliman and Alpharius. Not only this, but he is an incredibly powerful warrior and charismatic leader. The Luna Wolves prefer spearhead tactics, often employing the use of teleportation within Terminator armor to strike at the head of an enemy force. Nearing the heresy, they changed their name from the Luna Wolves to the Sons of Horus, and were some of the first to create the Warrior Lodges, a place where rank did not matter and opinions were shared in secret. Horus was eventually corrupted by chaos as Lorgar lured him into a trap, where he was stabbed with a demonic blade, nearly dying if it weren't for the chaotic powers that were used to save and corrupt him. Perhaps the most noble and loyal Primarch to the Emperor, fell to chaos and led the most costly rebellion in the history of the Milky Way. Horus was eventually slain by the Emperor, and since then, First Captain Abaddon has taken up the mantle of crusading against the Imperium. The Sons of Horus, now named the Black Legion, holding worshippers of all Chaos Gods and Space Marines from all traitor legions. The 17th Legion, the Word Bearers. Marching to war in Grey Ceramite, these warriors are more akin to missionaries. Lorgar was raised upon a deeply religious world, and he received visions of the Emperor's coming as a child. He spent many days arguing philosophy and religion with the scholars and priests of his world, and claimed the Emperor to be a god. As Lorgar reunited with his legion, he and his warriors took to the stars, spreading the word from the Book of Lorgar, a religious text made by Lorgar himself about the Emperor and the way of the universe. As a result, the rate at which the Legion conquered worlds was extremely slow, and the Emperor took notice of this. Each world was a perfect utopia, but this did not matter to the Emperor, for he had outlawed all religion. The Emperor sent the Ultramarines to the proclaimed perfect city upon Chthoniya, called Monarchia. The Ultramarines forced evacuation of the city, and then razed it to the ground. When the Word Bearers arrived, they saw nothing but devastation and were forced to bow to the Ultramarines. This was obviously very stupid of the Emperor, and he should have seen the heresy coming after doing this, for Lorgar eventually came into contact with the Chaos Gods and learned the primordial truth, and the truth that the Emperor had actually used powers stolen from the Chaos Gods to create the Primarchs. This obviously led to the heresy, and so on and so forth. Now the Word Bearers wear crimson armor and spread the primordial truth wherever they go. They are masters of summoning demons and have the most powerful possessed marines in the galaxy, called the Galvorback, a symbiosis of demon and space marine. Lorgar is now a demon Primarch. The 18th Legion, the Salamanders. Upon their molten home world of Nocturne, the Salamanders Legion bear green armor and carry the flames of war wherever they go. Similar to the Iron Warriors Primarch Ferris, Vulcan is a master smith and a formidable foe. He is likely the toughest Primarchs, wielding a massive thunderhammer, Dawnbringer. Vulcan is perpetual, meaning he can never die. No matter what happens to his body, he will always recover as long as his soul lingers on. The Salamanders are very unique in the fact that they show mercy to those who are weaker than them. Where many Space Marines see mortals as lesser beings, the Salamanders are fully willing to sacrifice themselves for humans and put an emphasis on minimizing civilian casualties. The Legion holds the largest array of flamer and melter weapons in the Imperium, the pride of their homeworld, burning their foes wherever they go. During the heresy, Vulcan was captured by Conrad Currs of the Night Lords, and was tortured for years. Seeing as he was a perpetual, Conrad could do whatever he wished and did not have to worry about killing Vulcan. Vulcan is now missing in the 4th millennium, and the Salamanders are on a constant crusade to find him, often having the battle cry of "Vulcan lives!" The 19th Legion, the Raven Guard. Amongst the shadows, the skulking warriors are clad in midnight black armor, and their skin is as pale as snow. Their Primarch Corax is no exception. Born upon the icy world Nostromo as a slave, he eventually led a rebellion. Learning he could meld into shadows, a 12-foot tall being needs only a dark corner and he will become invisible. The Raven God are silent killers for the Emperor and sided with him when the heresy began. They prefer guerrilla tactics to any other, but are still fierce warriors upon the field of battle. Corax basically slaughtered Lorgar, only being stopped by the Night Haunter Conrad before he could kill him. Corax is now on an endless hunt to assassinate the many traitor Primarchs, and it is unlikely any force can stop his rampage. The 20th Legion. the Alpha Legion. By far the most mysterious and confusing of the legions, the Alpha Legion is extremely unique and very little is actually known about them. They are masters of disguise and deception, and to outsiders each Marine goes by the name of their Primarch, Alpharius. But the most unique thing about the Legion, and perhaps the biggest secret, is that they actually have two Primarchs, Alpharius and Omegon. They bear the symbol of the Hydra, which fits them well, for whenever you may think you have killed Alpharius, two more will pop up somewhere else. They sided with Horus, but not for the Legions of Chaos, or even a love for Horus. Alpharius made the decision he thought the Emperor would have made. An alien group called the Cabal, housing a plethora of different species and perpetuals, met with Alpharius and showed him the future. They showed him the 40K Imperium, a place of pure suffering, sadness, and stagnation. They told him this was the fate of humanity if Horus was to lose, yet if Horus was to win, humanity would eventually implode upon itself and wipe itself out, essentially destroying the Chaos Gods, for humanity is their main source of power. This is why the Alpha Legion fought for Horus, sowing rebellion from the shadows and assassinating figureheads. The Alpha Legion employ a psychic technique called the mind swap, in which they take the minds of two individuals and swap their bodies. With this technique, Alpharius was able to be almost anywhere at any time, often taking on the form of regular Marines, the actual Primarch's body being held by that of a Legionnaire. With this technique, it was almost impossible to kill or locate the Primarch, and in a sense, the Alpha Legion truly is Alpharius. This was also possible because Alpharius and Omegon are pretty much the same size as regular Marines, seeing there's less room in their little test tubes for the twins to grow. Alpharius is believed dead now, though, at the hands of Rogel Dorn. Alpharius and Rogel had somewhat of a brotherly rivalry and truly loved each other, although being so different. Alpharius attempted to bring Rogel to his side but failed and was killed. Probably. His brother Omegon still lives though, and there are countless theories of where he is now. Some even believe he is Robote Guilliman. The Alpha Legion also stole a relic from the Raven Guard, giving them access to essentially unlimited Space Marines and Gene Seed, and as a result, all Space Marines are expendable for the mission. I really recommend reading the Alpha Legion Horus Heresy books, they are phenomenal. That and Fulgrim. Legion and Fulgrim are my two favorite Horus Heresy books, by far. Alright, now that we have covered each Legion, let's move on to the physiology of a Space Marine. For the most part, these traits are shared through all of Legion. The creation of a Space Marine is no simple task. It takes a very large amount of time and effort by the surgeons as well as the patient. Many do not survive the process, and the ones who do come out as a new being. Their past all but lost to them, but for fragments of memories. It is truly an ascension into becoming a new being. Every Space Marine is implanted with a gene seed. This is the main force that allows them to be what they are and causes almost all the changes within their bodies. The full process for ascending to become a Space Marine can take up to 5 years as the applicant's body develops through training and growth. Most applicants begin this process at the age of 10 to 14 years old, as they are at the perfect time for their bodies to accept drastic changes. This is also why all Space Marines are male, because they require specific male hormones and a lot of testosterone, and the physiology and the procedures just don't work on females. Science. Okay. Anyways, there are 15 phases of implants for each Marine. We begin with the secondary heart. As simple as it sounds, it is an artificial heart that allows for double the blood flow and BPMs as a regular human. It also allows the Marine to survive in low oxygen environments. It also keeps the Marine alive if one of his hearts is punctured or destroyed. Next is the os medulla. This is a small, complex tubular organ that secretes hormones that greatly increase bone growth, and within 2 years of this organ implant, the supplicant's bones will have drastically increased in size and strength. After this is the bioscopia. This is implanted into the Marine's chest cavity and drastically increases muscle growth and serves as the hormonal basis for many implants to come. The next 3 implants are Primaris Implants and have only recently been introduced to the Space Marines. These implants go in between phases 3 and 4. The Primaris Marine is an improved version of the regular Space Marine, and many Space Marines are having these implants put into them now. These Primaris things are fairly new to the lore. It's been about 2 years, so if you haven't heard of them before, that's okay. They're pretty new. Alright. So let's start with the sinew coils. These are the only cybernetic implants within the Marine. The subject's sinews are reinforced with durable coil cables that give them extra strength. The second Primaris implant is called the Magnificat. This implant further secretes hormones to increase strength and the efficiency of the advanced systems of the body. The last Primaris implant is the Bellisarian Furnace. This implant is known as the Revitalizer and is connected to both hearts. In times of extreme stress and trauma, it will pump the subject full of combat stims, aiding in awareness, pain tolerance, and regeneration. Back to the regular Marine stuff. After this is the Hamasta Man. Hey Master Man. Sure. This implant increases the hemoglobin within the Marine's blood, allowing it to carry more oxygen and causes it to be a bright red. It also serves to monitor and control the implants of Phase 2 and 3 mentioned earlier. Next is the Layerman Organ. This liver-sized organ is implanted into the chest cavity and produces something called Layerman cells that are released when the subject is wounded. They attach themselves to white blood cells and are carried to the wound site, and when they come into contact with air, they form a near-instant scar tissue, acting as an extreme version of platelets. After this is the catalepsian node. Implanted into the back of the brain, this implant influences the circadian rhythm of sleep, as well as the body's response to sleep deprivation. It allows a Space Marine to sleep and be awake at the same time by turning off parts of his brain sequentially. This does not replace sleep entirely, but allows a Marine to only need 4 hours of sleep to be fully rested, as well as allowing survivability with 2 weeks of no sleep. Next is the Preomnor. This acts as a pre-stomach, screening everything the Marine intakes and neutralizing and containing any toxins or poisons that he may ingest. Up next we have the Omophagia. This implant, known as the Remembrancer, allows a Space Marine to essentially absorb the thoughts and memories from an individual by consuming their brain matter. As they consume the matter, they will see what that individual saw or feel what they experienced. This has led to many blood-soaked rituals within some chapters, such as the Flesh Tears, a second founding of the Blood Angels. Next, we have the Multi-Lung. As simple as it sounds, it adds an artificial lung to the Marine, which can breathe in most toxins and poisonous gases. A sphincter muscle closes off the natural lungs, allowing this one to do all the heavy lifting. Now we have the Oculope. This implant lies at the base of the brain and secretes hormones and stimuli, allowing the Marine's eyes to respond to optic therapy. This in turn allows the apothecaries to make drastic changes to the Marine's eyes, granting them extremely superior eyesight and giving them the ability to see in low light conditions as if it were daylight. Next is Lyman's ear. This implant makes a Space Marine immune to dizziness and motion sickness, as well as allowing a Marine to filter out and enhance certain sounds. This implant replaces both the Marine's ears. After this is the Sus-An membrane. I copied the description right from the wiki because it's pretty neat. Initially implanted above the brain, this membrane eventually merges with the recipient's entire brain. Ineffective without follow-up chemical therapy and training, but with sufficient training, a Space Marine can use this implant to enter a state of suspended animation, consciously or as an automatic reaction to extreme trauma, keeping the Marine alive for years even if he has suffered other mortal wounds. Only the appropriate chemical therapy or autosuggestion can revive a Marine from this state. The longest recorded period spent in suspended animation was undertaken by Brother Silas of the Dark Angels, who was revived after 567 years. Next is the Melancholic Organ. The organ controls the amount of melanin in the Space Marine skin, darkening it in greater amounts of sunlight as well as protecting them from radiation. Next is the Oolitic Kidney. On a daily basis, this organ monitors the circulatory system, but if a Space Marine is to have poison enter his bloodstream, this organ filters the blood extremely quickly, but will render the Marine unconscious while it works. The Neuroglottis. This implant heightens the Space Marine's sense of tasting, allowing him to discern ingredients and chemicals and things he ingests, as well as giving him the ability to track with taste. The Mucrinoid. This allows the Space Marine to sweat a substance that can protect him from heat, cold, and even the void of space. The Betcher's Gland. This gland, located in the Marine's lower lip, stores strongly acidic poison in which the Marine is immune to. Upon activation, the Marine can spit this deadly poison, causing major bodily harm or burning through most metals. The Progenoids. There are 2 of these glands, one in the neck and the other in the chest cavity. These serve as the way to sustain the legions, as the only way to produce more gene seed is to reproduce it within the Marines themselves. The Black Carapace. This is a series of black plastic sheets that are implanted beneath the Marine's skin. These sheets then harden and send invasive neural bundles through the Marine's body. Once the carapace has matured, the Marine is outfitted with neural sensors and interface points, allowing them to interact with their power armor. There is also an interface in the spine, which allows the Marine to plug himself into one of the Legion's vehicles, essentially becoming one with it. Those are all the implants. Once an aspirant is outfitted with them all, if he survives the long process, he will go through a process called Indoctrination. This involves mental training and manipulation to be able to use the powers of the implants given to them. It also allows a Marine to endure pain that would kill the average man, think and react at lightning-fast speeds, and much more. After all this is completed, the aspirant may finally be ascended to the ranks of the Legion Astartes, the Emperor's finest. As you can see, the creation of a Space Marine is an extremely time-consuming and complicated process. This makes losing even one a great loss of resources. Perhaps next time we'll go over the creation of Chaos Space Marines and how the Loyalist counterparts create their warriors in the warp. But we'll leave that for next time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it as interesting as I did. Let me know if you enjoyed me talking over the workout footage instead of doing pictures and then the workout. This was an insane workout, so I hope you guys liked it. I've never suffered quite this much doing physical activity ever. Never in my life. It was hard. And for me, I hope Majorkill sees this. Anyways, leave a comment of anything you want to see next, whether it be lore, nutrition, fitness, or all three. There will be new videos every week, so stay tuned, like, and subscribe. I love you guys. Work hard out there and stay jacked.